Every family has a unique culture. And we grow up in our own family thinking whatever happens there is normal because it's the only family that we'll ever really see from the inside out. And at some point, when we get involved with other families, or if you spent any time at a neighbor's house, you realize that not every family is alike at all. They all have different rules, different customs, different power structures. And so each family is really quite unique. The idea of a system is that everything one person does affects all the others. So it's like a mobile hanging from the ceiling. Like if you pull on one piece of the mobile, it moves everything else in the system. So what is happening in one person might not actually be caused by that person. It might be caused or encouraged by other people in the system or the system itself. So looks can be deceiving. The hopeful thing is that one person changes, that it can change the whole system. So someone was saying earlier, that she's the one that's here. And that's really all we can hope for, is that's the best we can hope for, is that we change. And that when we change, everything changes. Maybe not as much as we want to, but it does have an effect. There's always norms and rules about communication, and they're usually not stated. These rules serve to regulate the emotional climate of the family. Why does the emotional climate need to be regulated? Because feelings are threatening to people. People don't want to feel certain feelings, and so they guard against any feelings being exposed in the family. A lot about family patterns is based in trying to regulate anxiety. And the level of anxiety that exists in a system is an indication of the health and resilience of the system. So if you think of a herd of animals, if they're in a constant state of anxiety, you could see them abandoning their territory, running away, just having their bodies be in a constant state of stress, which puts a tremendous toll on the body. The more calm a system can be and the people in it, the more healthy it is. One of the inquiries that we do in the Kilby Center and the program is the anxiety inquiry. And so when we're doing the anxiety inquiry, we're looking for something that's a threat. And a lot of times in families, what's a threat, although people don't know it, is other people's feelings and our own feelings. And we want to try to keep those feelings down at all costs. We don't want people being angry or sad or upsetting the apple cart. So above all, we want to survive, and that's sort of maybe the misguided attempt to survive, but it's what we do. Family rules and the behaviors are really attempts to survive threats or their solutions to threats. So like many solutions that we come up with, the solutions become the problem. So these are some fear-based communication rules that families have. This is Melody Beattie. The rules are Melody Beattie and the beliefs I came up with. So one of the fear-based communication rules in families, or really any system, this is not limited to families. This can be a corporation, this can be a civic group, an HOA, anything, any kind of a group. So the rule is that we don't feel or we don't talk about feelings. And the belief is that feelings are threatening to feel. In fact, our feelings are our own idiosyncratic response to life. It's like that is our thermostat. It's our only thermostat to knowing whether something that is presented to us is dangerous or life-affirming to us. And when a family has a rule, don't feel or talk about feelings, we start denying our own feelings and start living from the neck up. We're all in our heads and we're trying to solve all of our problems by logic. The feeling world is not a logical world. It's valid, because it's our response, it's our truthful and very authentic response to life. And so this can be very threatening to families, and it's a way that families put down feelings that it doesn't, you don't make sense, and shaming people for what they feel and what they're talking about. People can be brainwashed fairly easily. You can fool the mind just by saying something over and over again. When they take prisoners of war, like they can brainwash them quite easily. But you can never fool the body. The body holds the truth. The issues are in the tissues, as they say. And when you start talking about your feelings, it can really disrupt everything in the family. The family is trying to stay in equilibrium, and when people start talking about feelings, it disrupts everything. The second rule is don't think, figure things out, or make decisions. You probably don't know what you want or what is best for you. So some of you were talking about codependence, and this is how that works, like that we're thinking that other people aren't capable and that we need to jump in and solve problems. How not to be codependent. This would be a good way to do it. A good way to start is thinking that other people around you are actually capable. And even if they don't do things the way that you want them done, it's probably not going to cause any huge amount of harm, and that you can go ahead and let them do what they're doing and actually not be paying so much attention to what they're doing. So a lot of us are really up in each other's business all the time and don't need to be. And with addiction, that is particularly prominent because it can sort of consume our whole lives, that we're always worrying about what somebody else is doing and really abandoning ourselves and our own needs and our own desires and really our own lives. The fear is that the belief that runs this is the fear that somebody might fail or somebody might make a mistake, and that mistakes can't be tolerated. Like it would be the end of the world if somebody made a mistake. This reinforces the over and under functioning roles that exist in many families, especially families with addiction. When we're doing something for somebody else that they can do for themselves, then we're over functioning. And it's actually the over functioner that keeps the pattern going, not the under functioner. We get all mad at the under functioner, but it's actually the over functioner that keeps the behavior going. So when you're eating Thanksgiving dinner, take a look at that pattern. First step is awareness. It's really quite interesting when you kind of take a step back and look at what's happening more as research rather than being all reactive about it. Like the first step is just take a step back and observe what's actually happening and what you're doing when you're getting angry at what other people aren't doing, and then maybe how did you create that through your own overfunctioning. And back to the first one, not stating how you feel about things. So the third one is don't identify, mention, or solve problems. It's not okay to have them. So we would not mention that we need to solve them because we need to look perfect. This is really endemic in our culture, that we must always appear to ourselves as others as doing really well. You know, if somebody asks us how we're doing, all our kids are finishing college and all our grandkids are healthy and happy and we're healthy and happy and our marriages are perfect. Of course, that's never the case. We're all full of challenges all the time, and that's life. But in dysfunctional families, we're not allowed to have problems and not allowed to, look weak or need other people. Another belief that sustains this is that what your kids do reflects on you as a parent, and it's imperative that you look good. If you have that belief, then you have to minimize problems, and you certainly don't want your kids or your spouse admitting that they have problems. The fourth one, we need to be good, right, perfect, and strong. And the belief that runs that is that we're too vulnerable in our humanness, and that if we show any weakness, people will take advantage of us. So we always have to look as if everything's perfect. it just cuts off so much of the richness of relationships with each other. And especially people, I mean, people can live together for years in this sort of mask as if everything is perfect and you're strong and got no problems. And all this stuff is going on under the surface that we can't mine because we believe that it's not okay to show weakness or vulnerability. So in these fear-based communication roles, there's a prohibition of just being who you are. That you got to dress yourself up and prop yourself up because who you are is not quite good enough. And the belief that runs that is that we have to adhere, there's culturally defined roles and behaviors that are largely dictated to us through the media and through marketing and through other people as well, that it's not safe to be unique by our looks, our style, career choices, our sexuality, and that we need to consume products to make ourselves improved versions of ourselves and look really good to the rest of the world and look like the rest of the world, but there is no diversity, that we're all sameness in a certain way. So another one of the fear-based communication rules is that we shouldn't be selfish. We shouldn't put ourselves first. Don't say what you want and need. Don't say no. Don't set boundaries. Don't take care of yourself, but always take care of other people. And so the belief that runs this one is that being true to yourself, knowing your feelings, knowing your needs, and taking steps to meet your needs and desires is going to hurt others. And we also believe that we shouldn't have to ask for our needs to be met, but that other people should intuit our needs, that we should also intuit other people's needs and also sacrifice to meet them. It's actually a very immature stance toward life. And in reality, in a healthy situation, a non-codependent situation, we're really not paying that much attention. We're not being that vigilant toward each other of what you need. Like, a healthy system, a healthy ego is able to ask for what they want. When you're a month or 2, 3 months old, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, maybe somebody's checking on you to see what you need. That'd be healthy. But after a certain time, you're expected to ask for what you need. And so many of us are so shamed about our needs that we don't ask for what we want. And we actually believe that if we do, it's going to hurt others or go against others. So we end up doing all kinds of things that we don't want to. And also putting our focus on other people and making sure that they're happy and taking responsibility for their happiness. It's usually a thankless job. People don't appreciate it nearly as much as we would hope. It's kind of a lose-lose. Like, they don't get what they want because we can't intuit their needs. We can never intuit their needs perfectly. And then we abandon ourselves and become very self-forgetting. So don't have fun. Don't be silly. Don't enjoy life. It costs money. It makes noise, and it isn't necessary. So the belief is that life is serious and that you need to be hyper vigilant to threats at all times. Having fun means that nothing is wrong, and that's impossible. This rule is don't trust yourself, don't trust God or the universe, the process of life, or certain people. Instead, don't follow your instincts and put your trust in untrustworthy people and then act surprised when they let you down. How this happens is that we are out of touch with our own feeling system, our own GPS. The belief that the world's a dangerous place and that we don't have what it takes to survive. Like, it's dangerous, we need help, we need to be vigilant. And then at the same time, we're very susceptible to people who promise to help and take care of us because there's this deep need for dependency. You could say codependence, looking for somebody to come rescue you because we believe that we can't do it for ourselves. Well, we can't do it for ourselves because we're not paying attention to what we need. That makes us really vulnerable because when somebody comes along and says the right words, we follow them around like a little duck. And we ignore the small signs that their words don't actually match their actions and end up being taken advantage of, being disappointed, having a conflictual relationship, and getting a cynical view of life. Life just doesn't work. It's not fair, and people are going to take advantage of you. Well, they do because you let them. Watch what people do rather than what they say. The last one is the rule to not be open. Don't be honest, open, or direct. You can hint, you can manipulate, you get others to ask for you. You can guess what other people want because you feel like other people are doing the same thing. It's like a deal that we make, an unconscious deal that we make with each other. It's like, I'll try to guess what you need, and you need to try to guess what I need, and I'm going to be mad if you don't get it because my attention is constantly on you and trying to give you what you need. So it's a very energy draining and dysfunctional way of being in a family or in any system. The belief that runs this is that our needs won't be honored and won't be met. That other people don't want to meet our needs. Furthermore, if your needs conflict with what I need, then we'll fight, and we cannot tolerate conflict. Like that, it's just going to end up in a cut-off relationship. Like it's more than we can handle. It's a reason why dysfunctional families have so much conflict, because there's all this stuff going on underneath where people aren't being authentic, and they're all trying to figure out each other and all trying to manipulate each other to do what we want them to do. And of course, that doesn't happen. It's like holding a remote that's not connected to anything, and we're frantically hitting the remote trying to get people to do things that we want them to do. I don't know about you guys, but it hasn't worked so well for me. So, and also in some families, some people's needs matter more than others. In families with addiction, a lot of times the person with the addiction is very needy, and it is the focus of a lot of people's attention in the family. The other people in the family don't get to have any needs, and especially children growing up with an alcoholic parent. It's a real travesty because the kids' needs get ignored because somebody who's using is not paying attention, is really not available to hear or listen or encourage or try to understand what's going on with anyone else. They're completely self-centered. So number 10, don't get too close to people. It's not safe. And so we end up having these disengaged family systems where it's kind of every man for himself. People aren't relating to each other on a deep level. Nobody really talks about what's going on. And then that multiplies out when you get married or into your social life, that we feel like it's a dangerous world and we can't get close to anybody. So it does make sense if you grew up in a family like this, that if you can't express your needs or your feelings, it does feel better to isolate because you're only going to be hurt or disappointed. And being alone is better than being alone together. And number 11 is the rule of don't disrupt the system by growing or changing. And I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but there is a phenomenon that when somebody changes, like let's say they go away to retreat where they learn a lot of stuff and grow and have all these insights. When they come home to the family system or a spouse or loved one, the message that they will very likely get is to change back. That the change I see in you is too threatening to me, and that if I accept that change, then it means I have to change. So the belief is that change is dangerous because it's going to expose my game. And it's dangerous because it might expose the power structure in the family. It might expose family secrets. It might force me to change, me to look at things within myself that I've never wanted to see, that makes me feel vulnerable. And so there's a really, really strong pull that to belong in the system, you need to change back. You need to go back to what you were, and because that's what we're comfortable with. And so sometimes, people have to stay away for a while to get really grounded in that change. And so the rules, as I said, they're from a book by Melody Beattie. How do we get out of this? Well, one thing is just to see what's happening, because often we haven't been looking, or we didn't have words for what's happening. The holidays are a great time to look for this stuff because we're around relatives for an extended period of time. And maybe you might get irritated once or twice. And when you get irritated, kind of look into it, do some research on it. See if this irritation is because there's something that you wanted that you didn't ask for. So that we're all very good at getting irritated after the fact. And we're not so good at asking for what we want or even knowing what we want up front. Why don't we know what we want? Why don't we ask for what we want up front? Because it's scary. And we've been encouraged not to do that. We've been encouraged not to know what we want, not to have needs, to be really compassionate with ourselves that this is something really new. It is threatening, and you might get backlash for asking for what you want. And people, furthermore, might not do it. But one thing's for sure, there's a 100% chance they won't do it if you don't ask. So the worst thing that can happen is that you get a no and possibly get made fun of. And so notice if you are able to ask for what you want, if it makes you anxious, and what are you afraid would happen if you were to ask for what you wanted. So begin to notice where you overfunction rather than ask for help. It's easier just to do it myself. That's one of my personal favorites. Personally, I don't like asking for what I want. It makes me feel really vulnerable. I feel guilty asking for what I want. We're all on this path, I think. Me too. And so notice the story that you make up about other people's reaction. If you were to ask for what you want, like we have a scene in our head that we make up about what other people would say, that, oh, that would never happen. They would never be able to do that. They would make fun of me. Well, just notice that's what's going on in your head. That's not actually what's going to happen. And that those stories that we make up in our head, which are the basis of inquiry, are only words, pictures, body sensations that make up the story. I love this slide. It says, be you. The world will adjust. They may not like it. They may act like they don't like you, but you're you. You can only win by being you. This is ringing true for some of you of how many years you've spent being angry, not being you, and not asking for your needs to be met or not knowing what your needs are. So it really is a win-win. And even if people do get angry, my experience is that the world will adjust and that people actually do want to meet our needs if we are clear about them. Are we going to get it 100%? No. But we're damn sure going to get it more than we are now